Good evening and welcome to TownHall Central for Thursday, August 13th. We actually have a little bit of a cooler day today, which is just wonderful. But welcome everybody, and let's get started. You saw our slides. I want to make sure you put on your calendar our next show. Our next Zoom hall will be on Thursday, September 17th, and Susan Shelley will be going over our November 3rd ballot. So you want to make sure you watch that show. TownHall Central is brought to you with the support of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. And I'm really excited tonight. We have some special guests on tonight, good friends of our show. Tonight we have one of our board members. She's going to talk about her recent trip to our nation's capital for our semi-quincentennial. And the latest information about the stormwater issue that is affecting three counties. Actually, wouldn't it be San Bernardino, Riverside, and Orange County? And then we're going to hear from our Assemblywoman Leticia Castillo regarding all the laws that passed on that went into effect July 1st. And there's some crazy ones. I don't think people really understand what has passed and what's going on. So let's get started. So I'm going to introduce our treasurer, Cynthia Galbadon. She has the pleasure of visiting Washington, D.C. So, Cynthia, tell us about your trip. I know it was super hot. They actually had to cancel some of the stuff because it was too hot. But tell us about D.C. and what you saw.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, so we had planned this trip almost a year ago to go see D.C. on America's 250, and not knowing we'd have the hottest 4th of July in like 80 years there, but que sera. So, for probably the first couple of things I've been telling people is how clean it was. The fountains were fabulous until today. For those who don't know, the World War II Fountain Memorial was actually hit by taggers, and they ruined some of the parts of it today, which is really sad. But DC was really beautiful, and that was really fantastic, especially for that weekend. The estate fair, they did a really nice job on the overall planning and the idea of the state fair. But I have to qualify that the heat was it was really bad. It was about 112 with the humidity. So people were passing out everywhere, and it was making it hard to just kind of like let go and enjoy. But the state fair really was a good idea. It was very interesting to see which states did not participate, and there were quite a few. California's booth, or what booth is really what it is, was really nothing. Washington and Oregon, it was a complete joke. It was just two chairs and a lady with a broken leg sitting there doing a stamp for our little passbooks we had. The amazing states were Georgia, great one, Florida, amazing one, and Pennsylvania, because Fetterman made, when he found out the Pennsylvania governor wasn't going to do anything, Fetterman made sure, and they probably had the best exhibit out of all of them, especially because that's Philadelphia. And he had a whole history of the flags in there. They did a really good job. Guam did a nice job. And then there's other states, like I said, didn't show up, like Rhode Island, and which is one of the original 13, which just doesn't make sense. But the museums were set up. There was a lot of people at one time, but the overall camaraderie of everybody was really nice. Talking to everybody, especially because with all the lines, it was, 2-hour lines everywhere. But I went there, I really went there because I wanted to see the show and the fireworks show. And it was hard because, for those of you who don't know, everybody got evacuated. So we waited in line for 5 hours to get evacuated. And then we had a tough time to getting back in. My group actually didn't get back in, so we only saw a little smidgen of the fireworks show. But to be there in DC on that weekend was really, really special. I did see the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights on the 4th of July. So my husband and I waited in that line, and that was great. But I've been telling everybody, the metro there, super clean. Go to DC. The restaurants are amazing. The museums, of course, are amazing. And make the effort to go there. And Trump, because I've been there about 12 years ago, 13 years ago, it is much, much cleaner than it was then. So I highly recommend going. So there's that.
Awesome. Yeah,
Um,
they have little passport books that you would get stamped for each state. I had one
correct.
of my best friends went and they sent a copy to my son. So I thought that was very sweet.
Oh, that was nice. Yeah, well, I only got about halfway through because one of the people we were with, she'd walk about a half an hour and then she'd have to sit. So we didn't get
Mm.
very far. But yeah, it was good. We saw, I can't remember his name right now, but the young man from Detroit who's the pastor and he was at the RNC convention, he was there, and that
Mm.
poor young man was talking at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is the hottest part of the day, dripping sweat, but he did a great job. So it would have been nice if they had had benches with like umbrellas out there, but I don't think anybody really thought it was going to get that hot. It was really hot. So, but I highly recommend it. It's totally worth it.
Well, and to experience it on our semi-quincentennial,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
once in
that
a
was
lifetime.
great. Yeah, it was
Once in a
definitely
lifetime.
once in a lifetime. So, and go to the head up head up in the museums or look online for the America 250 stuff because there's a ton of really good, special type of items that are online. Also, locally, go to the Nixon Library. I'm going to do a plug
Mm.
for it again because they have the little small America 250 exhibit, the history exhibit there, and they also have stuff in their gift shop. But please do visit there because that's close by and it's not super expensive, and it's worth it to go there. And there's usually no lines, and it should be a lot cooler.
Yes. Great. Yes, we took our kids there back on President's Day. Great, great exhibit. So we
Yeah,
got pictures with George Washington, Lincoln. So yeah, it was a great time.
yeah.
Okay,
But
so
but
we
but I was gonna say the metro there is night and day from, and I live near Metrolink here in LA County. It is night and day, the metro there than from here. No urine smell. We saw one homeless person the entire 5 days, just one,
wow,
totally clean. And we
oh,
also saw security everywhere.
great, great.
What a concept.
Our capital should be beautiful, not
Yep.
trashed. So
Yep.
I'm sorry to hear about the World War II one.
Yep.
So we have this lovely issue. Cynthia went to this meeting. It's regarding the Santa Ana River, the storm water issue, and it affects San Bernardino because the Santa Ana River starts in San Bernardino, goes through Riverside, and out through Orange County, ending up in Huntington Beach. So I thought it'd be appropriate for the people that live in those three counties. For Cynthia, can you give us an
Yeah.
update? What happened at meeting, and what to look forward to? What can we do? The people that live in those three counties. What can you do while we're learning about this?
So this is actually what I do for a living. So I'm actually a civil engineer. My specialty is stormwater management and permitting for San Bernardino and Riverside County is actually my two counties that I do most of my work for, and 9 different cities. So what this is that every county and almost every city in California has to be managed by something called it's a MS4 permit, and it's for stormwater runoff, just things off, just the rain hitting your roof, hitting your lawn, hitting a shopping center or whatever, or a church or a school, running off into your gutter. So it's really how you manage your gutter water is what we're talking about. Every county has these permits. Well, and we're supposed to get them updated every 5 years. We are now on year 17 because we've been actually fighting with the regional board for 10 years on this. What has happened is that they're combining San Bernardino, Riverside, and Orange County. They are very different counties for a lot of regions. The rain intensity, the actual geology, and then also the demographics and the different economies. Um, for Riverside and San Bernardino County, there are some very specific changes concerning the San Jacinto watershed, which is Canyon Lake, Lake Elsinore, all the way up through Paris, all the way up to San Jacinto and Hemet and Menifee. And then there's very specific items for the Santa Ana River, which is Prado Basin, so Chino and Chino Hills, all the way up through Ontario, Upland, Rancho, Colton, Redlands, San Bernardino, of course, all the way up to Big Bear. Big Bear is a standalone city, but it goes all the way up there. And what there's a lot of things in this permit, and I can talk about it for hours, but there's one particular nuance of it, which is that this particular regional water board, which is based out of Riverside, the staff there is interpreting a couple of laws where they understand that all runoff has to meet a specific number, and this number is for bacteria. It is impossible across the country, and there's a ton of studies on this, to meet those numbers. And it's mostly because bacteria grows naturally in soil. And as many of you know, we have a little homeless problem out here, and they are a contributing factor to this. And we also have the wild boars in the Santa Ana River, which are, there's about 4,000 of them in there because I've had to count them. They are also a contributing factor. Well, the Santa Ana Regional Board staff wants us to ignore both the homeless people and the wild boars, and they think every city in Riverside and San Bernardino County, at all their outfalls, which there are thousands and thousands of outfalls, should have 100% treated water for bacteria. The only way to do that is through very expensive means. And both counties paid the same company to do a fiscal analysis on what it would mean. And I'm glad everybody's sitting down. And if you're not, you need to. For San Bernardino County, it would be 13 billion with a B dollars to get in compliance. And for Riverside County, it's closer to about $18 billion to get into compliance. What that would mean per person is between $3,000 and $7,000 a year increase in your property taxes. And there is no way for any of us to technically tell you it would ever work. And it's nationally, there really is no way to manage bacteria. And from a bigger picture, when it comes down to theoretical theory about all this all started because of the swimmers at the beaches, and they were getting sick, but they were swimming where the big outfalls are. For LA County, for example, where the massive wastewater treatment plants discharge. We don't have that. We do have discharges from sewer treatment in Santa Ana River, but when it discharges, they're at zero because they have very, very high compliance points there. We are still getting bacteria naturally in the river, and now they want us to be held accountable for that. So we have been fighting it's like meetings 6 hours long every other day has been my life now for about 3 months. We have been pushing back. We've had electeds, including Assemblywoman Castillo here. She actually attended, and it was wonderful to have her there for the whole day, which is a long day. It's an 8-hour day, to push back, and we got a pause on it. But on August 21st, the Riverside Regional Water Board is going to have another meeting. It's going to be available on Zoom, and we can send that out. And what I would ask for you to do is to, in the interim, reach out to your local electeds, your city managers and your city council members, and tell them that you have heard about this and you want them to stay active, because you want the science to lead and not fake policy, which is really what this is. Or to have the environmental groups, and I can bring that up, or to have the environmental groups from the beaches telling us in the Inland Empire how to run our policies. The young lady who's the lead lawyer for the Orange County Coastkeeper basically told us that she thinks everybody in Riverside and San Bernardino County are a bunch of complainers, and we should just pay more money. And then I told her she needs to drive down 3rd Street in San Bernardino, about 2 blocks past the Public Works building that I've worked in for almost 20 years now, and make a left and go to that neighborhood and tell me if she thinks that neighborhood can afford $3,000 a year, because nobody can out here. And I saw her drive by. I know she went down there, but they are there's a very condescending group of people that we're dealing with here. So we can send out the information on the meeting. You can watch online. It's and just listen all day. But do definitely reach out if you're in Orange, San Bernardino, or Riverside County. It's every city, unless you're out in the desert, it's separate. Or if you're up in Victorville area, that's a separate permit. But if you're down here in the valley, reach out, ask them to stay involved, and that you're following this policy, and that we need to have practical solutions to this problem. Everybody wants clean water. We're not saying that. And regionally, we are less than 2% exceedance, which means we're at 98% good. For almost 22 years now, we've been really good. And for us to spend billions and billions of dollars for 2% just is, it's really, really bad policy, period. So, but that's it in a nutshell.
Now, Cynthia, one of the gals online said, is there a bill number to it? And I don't think there is a bill number to it.
There is no bill. So this is California. We have so many different different departments and divisions that the regional boards are a set aside for these types of environmental decisions, just like the AQMD is. So they manage under a different set of rules, and it's a really big problem. Really, really big problem. And the board members, so we have 5 members in the 9 regional boards in California, and then we have the state board, which is in Sacramento. They all have 5 people. They're all appointed by the governor, so you know what that means.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
but I'll make sure we get all the information out. But to have every one of you reach out to your local electeds would be really, really good. And to your assembly members or to your state senators for your region, that would be really, really good. Same thing, just so everybody knows, if you're in LA County, we're battling the same thing. We already spend $700 a parcel out here per year in taxes to LA County for this completely boondoggle of this group that they have. And there's some people inside LA County who are trying to actually abscond with the money because they realize how much money's there. But it's just all it is just part of the great big boutique money laundering system, just like the homeless stuff. And I'm saying that as somebody who's worked in it for almost 30 years.
Cynthia, if you can give us some information that we can share and get that out so we can get people involved. That's the whole reason why we have this show, why Don Dick started it, is to educate people what's going on and how you can make a difference. So again, this was very important information. So since you still can't see me, but I'm still talking, we'll introduce tonight's main speaker, and that is Assemblywoman Leticia Castillo. She represents Assembly District 58. She is now the vice chair of the Committee of Human Services and Economic Development, Growth, and Household Impact. I hope that's still true, Leticia. She's going to go over the new laws that went into effect on July 1st. And I tell you, you have to pay attention. There are some dillies, especially the unisex bathrooms. So, Leticia, if you're ready, how are you? And I'm sad you can't see my fan I got from the 4th of July parade in Corona that you wrote in. I got your fan. So maybe when I come back on, I can wave it again. But anyway, if you want to get started, let's start with SB 68, food allergens. If you're ready to start on that.
Yeah, so hello everyone. Thank you for having me. I don't know all the bills. There's a ton of them. Just so you know the process, when I got elected in 2024, they had just changed the law to each assembly member and each Senate member can have 35 bills per year. And prior to that, it was 50 bills per year. And believe me, they max them out. I ran about 12 bills last year. This year, I ran 5. But there's a ton. And so in these next 2 weeks, we're on lockdown Monday through Sunday, every day, because we have more than 500 bills or so to get out. And the term ends on the 31st of this month. So everything needs to be done. And today, both Assembly and Senate appropriations were in trying to get stuff out. And unfortunately, one of my bills that has no fiscal responsibility died today in appropriations in the Senate. But I'll tell you guys about that in a bit. Senate Bill 68 is what you said?
660, food labeling.
660. Assembly Bill 660 standardizes the date labels you see on packaged food, and it's meant to cut down on food waste. Second, food labeling. So that one goes into effect.
That was July 1st. All these went to effect July 1st.
July 1st? Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause some July, some are January 1st.
Okay.
Yeah. So this one helps the confusing sell by dates, takes that away instead of manufacturers. It just best if used by type of terms.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one is a fun one. Somehow supposed to fix a roast. We haven't seen it yet. That's
I see you.
SB1. Good. I'm back.
You're back. You're back.
Is the tax series, which we just all love. We love paying over $5 a gallon of gas. So much fun.
The gas? Oh man. So I'm sure everyone is aware because when I actually first got out there to get into this position, I had a lot of people out there that already knew when I was talking to them. Oh, the person, this was in 2022, the first time I, threw my name in the game. People were telling me, oh, the person you're running against, she voted, she was the deciding vote on SB1. So people remember that, they know. And
Yeah.
that was a bill that passed in 2017. I think that's when she first got elected. She got elected in 2016. And so it's every July 1st, the gas tax increases by a few cents. So right now it's 63.4 cents per gallon, and it went up 2.2 cents. And diesel is 48.2 cents per gallon. Yeah. And a lot of people say, well, how come our roads are the way they are? Or they say, well, they need to do that because what's going to fix our roads? Well, look at the road now. Yeah.
You can
There's,
tell the road improved.
yeah. So regarding the gas tax, that's going to continue. It's unfortunate that we try to run a bill. I believe it was Assemblyman Jeff Gonzalez. Then we co-authored, and we were trying to get them to stop the gas tax, even if it was just for a year, to give people a little bit of room to manage life in general. And they shut it down. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate. Some of the things people say, so is it what you expected? And I'm like, I knew it was bad. It's worse than what I imagined. It really is. It really is to see a lot of the things and to hear some of the things they say. And it's kind of like you have the power right now. Right now, you have the 54 votes to change things for people. Takes effect right now. I tell that to people all the time because I don't know if people understand that. It takes 41 votes to pass legislation and 54 votes to make it take effect right now. And there's 80 assembly members, and of those 80 assembly members, 60 are Democrat, and currently 19 because we lost James Gallagher to the Congress. So 19 are Republican. So there's absolutely no way the Republicans can change anything to help. We can try to get the Democrats to, hey, believe in what we're saying and let's do this for the people. But at the end of the day, there's this control power over, even if they want to do the right thing, they can't because that the powers that be won't allow them to, which is unfortunate. There was a bill, Assemblyman, when he was the Assemblyman, Bill Asaley and Assemblywoman Kate Sanchez were running. One was for the K through 12, and one was for college. It was for women in safe spaces and sports and whatnot. And it had to go into the maybe it was Judiciary Committee. I'm not exact, or maybe the I don't remember which committee it had to go to, but one of the committee members, who's a Democrat, he says, I actually agree with this. I'm going to vote in favor of it. Well, when their speaker heard that, he removed him from the committee, inserted himself into the committee so he can vote no on that bill. That is what I'm saying. When they're in control of what you do, you might go up there for the right reasons and want to do the right thing, but you learn very quickly. I'm not saying my party, my colleagues from the other side of the aisle, they learn very quickly that they have to fall in line or else, which is very unfortunate.
So we should remember that with this upcoming election, how you vote, right?
Yeah.
We want conservative voice up there to make
Yeah.
any changes. So uh,
It's very
it's
important to, yeah.
yeah. How about FB 576 video streaming apps? Oh, it's basically banning louder programming. So it's basically advertisements, low advertised sounds.
Stop streaming services like Netflix and Hulu from blasting ads at a much louder volume than the show or movie you're actually watching.
That's no different than Red TV.
It says this extends the rule that applied to broadcasting cable TV for 15 years under federal law, so streaming has to follow the same standard now.
So the next one, minimum wage increase. This has really got hurt a lot of cities, especially have the Olympic coming in 2028. Go to stay at a hotel, say you're from out of state, you want to see Olympics, and you have to pay more because you pay for the wages of the works that are part of the SIU. And I like give notes there. Hotels are going to be 25 to 26.50 per hour.
Yeah.
That started on July 1st.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any pushback from anybody? I mean, we're in LA County, but I'm sure that's got to affect your area because we do have hotels here in Riverside County, San Bernardino County. Maybe some people are going to stay here and then drive into LA for something. I know LA can't hold all the events, but that would curb tourism, and tourism is huge in our state.
Yeah. It shows here that Glendale, Los Angeles, Long Beach did raise the hotel and hospitality worker wages as high as 25 to 26.50 an hour. Santa Monica automatically matches whatever Los Angeles does. So yeah, that one was interesting. I think a lot of times, I mean, not I think, I know it's they don't pay attention to what how that's going to affect things.
Yes.
There's a lot of, well, I'm sure you guys know this. There's not much common sense up there.
Yeah. They don't look at the long term. I see that in a lot of bills. I mean, this is a side note. Look at we have to recycle our food, and I remember complaints like, okay, I want to put a trash bag into that container so I don't get ants or rodents. And waste management takes away the entire container. I don't want a trash bag in there. Well, I don't want the rodents.
Right.
I didn't think the bill all the way through, and we end up suffering for it. So,
Right.
Okay, that's just a side note. But again, minimum wage, you have less people working at the food restaurants. You go into have a burger place, one of my favorite places, you have to use a kiosk. Well, I'm talking to a person like that one-on-one customer service.
Right.
And I know McDonald's does that with the kiosk and getting
Yeah.
away from that customer service. So that's really sad.
Yeah. And
Oh,
what ends up happening too is, like you said, they use a kiosk. They're going to roll out kiosks. People don't take that oh, we're going to lose a lot of jobs because of that. And they will cut hours. So to make sure that you only work this many hours, you only work this
Hmm.
many hours, and I'm like, they they don't think about the reality of what can happen because of that and how it can negatively affect things.
Very much so. Okay, next one is perinatal services in rural hospitals. It's SB 669. Um, that one seems reasonable.
Healthcare access.
Hmm.
Yeah, healthcare access. 10-year pilot program that allows up to 5 qualifying rural critical access hospitals to set up standby perinatal, meaning maternity units. There was 90 million, I think, or that was they were trying to give to or they did give to Planned Parenthood, and we tried to say, well, instead of that, if it's really for, um, you know, for mothers, that's what you're giving. You're saying Planned Parenthood for family planning. Then give it to the rural hospitals that don't have, if you really are worried about women and their health care, give that. No, they wouldn't. But yeah, Senate Bill 669. I'm all for anything that's going to help women and maternity and that type of stuff. So I did vote in favor of that bill. I
Great,
know,
great.
yeah, my local hospital here in Corona, they had to cut out. They had to make a decision on what department to cut out of the hospital, and they ended up cutting out the maternity ward. OB.
Yes, they did. They sure did. Now, SB 79, Abundant and Affordable Homes and Transit Act. Cynthia also knows a little about this, but it's basically making high density housing near tram areas. So, like near train station, bus stations. How do you feel about these high density housing near the transits?
So, and I'll tell you about SB 79. That one was really interesting. So, it's a Scott Wiener bill, and they were trying to get me on board with it. I had people in my office coming in, and Wiener called my office, tried to get a meeting with me, and they would come back and they'd say, I'm like, no, I reached out to my areas, to my cities. All of them are against it. Then they came back and they're like, well, what if we adjust the language, and what if we make it this many feet away from this, and only this many levels up. They were trying to get me to vote in favor. And I was like, let me reach out again. I reached out and they're like, still no. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to support that bill. But yeah, they were trying all until the last minute to get me to on board with that. And I was like, and some people say, well, what about that? I said, well, that sounds good. I said, I have to go and look at it and see and visualize it, like if they have something, to show. But yeah, I was, a lot of people are against that high density type stuff. And yeah.
Well, and now here in Corona, we have quite a few stack and access, they're called, where you have shops on the bottom, like Europe. That's part of the
The model.
Agenda 21 and Agenda 30
Mhm.
that we're required to follow, even though we're not, we shouldn't follow what the United Nations want. We should follow what our country wants. A lot of apartments, people can't afford them. So they're not all full.
Right.
And I don't see the kids, I do see people take Metrolink, but I don't see people taking buses, um, mass transit.
Mhm.
The only time I see people on the train is coming back from LA because I have taken the Metrolink. Um, when the train is full, it's coming back from LA, coming back to Riverside, San Bernardino campus. So, and they're ugly. Sorry.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so the next bill is
Yeah,
AB one.
and and just
Yeah, go
really
ahead.
quick, yeah. So across the street here from where my district office is in Corona on Main Street. there is that, because the Metrolink is right here, but across the street it is. You have the businesses on bottom, the living spaces up on top. But yeah, I voted no, and I've always been the type to say I don't like all that government overreach, right?
Yes.
Local electeds are locally elected to do the work for the local area. The state should stay out of local because they're elected too. I mean, we're elected, but we shouldn't be telling them how to do it because they're elected also. And so I don't agree with that overreach on the state trying to tell locals what and how to do it. So that SB 79 would have taken away the local zoning restrictions for
Right.
local people.
And really, it's taken away a single house, family houses.
Mhm.
So that's sad. So they really, I mean, the Americans just own your own home, rent an apartment. So, and that's very European based. So next one is DB 1127, the Glock ban. Do you know much about that one? It
Let me
classifies
see.
the machine gun converted pistols.
Firearms. AB 1127 requires licensed dealers to stop selling certain semi automatic pistols, most notably Glock style handguns, because of a trigger mechanism that can be converted into a fully automatic weapon relatively easy. I voted no on that.
Okay.
Um, and speaking of guns, I this is so you know how things are done up in Sacramento. So you can run a bill and they will kill it in committee. And if someone likes your bill, they're going to steal your bill. They're going to gut one of their bills, insert all the language of yours, and then they're going to pass their bill, which is originally your bill. That's what happened to one of my bills, which was my CCW bill. They killed it in committee. The chair says, "Oh, that's a unnecessary bill." And one of the members from that committee had a CCW bill. And so what ended up happening is they passed his bill, but when they killed mine, he took the language from mine and put it in his. So, and then they just put it on consent and passed it all through. I mean, it's great that it got passed, but I went and told him, I said, "Hey, you should have asked me to co-author it. It's my bill." And he says, "Oh, I was running a CCW bill too." I was like, "No, but the language in your bill is mine." Yeah. And the language in my bill was written by CRPA. So, yeah, he just took it. But that happens often. That happens
And
often. And when you said earlier about me being the vice chair of human services, I'm a mental health professional. I love that committee. I was happy to be on that committee. They took me off just before we went on the break
oh,
for the war.
wow.
They took me off of that committee. And
Interesting.
no word why. They just took me off and I'm like, "Oh, okay. I guess they don't want me on there."
I guess you're too vocal.
Mm. They didn't want.
Okay. So
And
this one is an off-fill. This SB 760. This is all gender restrooms. I would encourage you guys if you to follow the California Family Council. They put out a video. Their Vice President Greg Burr is in it, and they have a woman, and they go into this alder bathroom. So your daughter could be going into the bathroom while an adult male could be using the urinal. So I don't know if you feel comfortable about that. I certainly wouldn't want even my 7-year-old son to do that.
Mhm.
So this was voted into law. And so, Latia, want to read the rest of that?
Yeah, so that one was prior to me getting into office. That one was from 2024. And oh no, yes, 7 SB 760. And I recall when I was out there talking to people in my process of getting into this seat, I made sure I let them know about that and who my opponent was and how her sister voted in favor of that. And that was one of the ones that where people would say, why don't they tell us these things? And I'm like, because if they told you, you wouldn't vote for them. You're absolutely right, we wouldn't. Well, just make sure you vote differently, because they're going to continue to just string you along and do things that go against your values, your beliefs, and they don't care, because as long as you're not paying attention and you don't know, they're going to continue to do it. And that was one of the things. And I think it's important for, especially in my district, it's a very Hispanic district, and very, Hispanics, family, oriented. Don't Government don't tell us how to do things, but also keep our kids safe. Like, no, men should not be in girls' restrooms. They're safe spaces. That's not okay. And if you talk to the majority of people, they understand that. They get it. And so they don't want men around their kids when they're in the restroom or in a changing locker room or whatnot. Yeah. So that one, unfortunately, um, was from 2024.
And that one requires all K-12 public, charter, and private schools to provide one easily accessible, unlocked, all gender restroom student use. So that's just really scary. It was to create safe, non-discriminatory spaces for LGBTQ and non-binary students. So, and we've heard issues across the country of students going in there believing they are a different gender, and sometimes abusing opposite sex. So it's a disaster. So let's go on. And since it passed, you should still contact your elected officials and say, I don't like this, and I'm going to make sure to vote you out. If they're running this season, and let them know.
Here's the thing. When people call their elected officials, their state elected officials, when you call and email their district office, they know their constituents are paying attention. Calling them to Sacramento, I don't think it has the same effect as when they call their district office, because that's when they know, oh, I just got 100 phone calls or 100 emails from my constituents. That means they're paying attention. They'll do things differently. The thing they fear most is losing their seat. And when people are listening, when people are doing that, um, they pay attention. When people don't do that, that's why you see all these laws, the things that they do, because they know people aren't paying attention, they don't care, and so they're going to do whatever they're going to do because people aren't paying attention and listening.
That's great advice, Leticia. That's great advice, because I call Sacramento
Yeah,
because you guys are up there and I want you to get it away. But
yeah,
I think that's maybe we should call both.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah, both.
So yeah,
I know
that's
when that bill for to make a holiday, I had a
mm,
lot of emails and calls to my local office. And so, I just laid off of that bill. I didn't, I was like, I'm not voting for them. Just going to lay off. I mean, I still have constituents that, but at the same time, I'm just going to lay off, because I had a lot of calls and so I'm not.
the bill she's referring to is AB 2017, and it's to make Muslim holy days official state holidays. So that would allow public school and colleges to choose to close if local school boards and unions agree. Courts would remain open on these holidays. State employees would be able to use the holiday credit or leave time to celebrate the Muslim holy days. So, yeah, a good website to follow on these bills is called Real Impact, and that lists the bills, and you can actually email your elected official directly if you don't approve, or if you approve the bill. So that's a good one to follow. Next one is AB 3216, and this regarding cell phones.
3216, it's the Phone Free Schools Act. Assembly, it's from 2024. Requires all public school districts, charter schools, and county offices of education to adopt policies that limit or prohibit student smartphone use during the school day. It was signed into law to address growing concerns surrounding classroom distraction, cyberbullying, and student mental health. Uh, so, once established, school boards are legally required to review and update these phone policies every 5 years to ensure they continue to meet the students' needs.
I think that's a good one because yes, cell phones are very addicting for kids. Okay, we got another one. Change of name and gender. And this is AB 1084. Um, so let's talk about that one.
Well, I voted no on that one.
Good.
I'm also on the education committee, K through 12. So I think I saw it
Okay,
both
good.
in committee and on the floor. So this streamlines the process for updating legal names and vital records to match gender identity for adults and for minors with the consent of all living parents. Courts must grant the name change without a hearing within 6 weeks of filing. Outside objections for adults are entirely eliminated. If a minor's petition lacks unanimous parental consent, the non signing parent must be served, and a hearing will only be scheduled if they file a timely objection based on good cause. Additionally, the bill removes the administrative requirement that petitioners must file their official court judgment for gender identifier changes with the state registrar or county clerk within 30 days of issuance. Um, I don't agree with that. I just, it's more of the same, hiding things from parents. Like,
Mhm.
how far is this going to go? I get it, whatever adults want to do, you know, as I'm going to say this as a therapist, right? I worked in children's clinic when I worked for the county of Riverside. I worked in children's clinics, um and in that process, it was around 2020, 2019, when when kids were coming in with all this confusion, right? And I now I feel like my profession has been infiltrated, as a therapist, right? Because you have these kids that come in confused, and if you sit there and you feed into that, well, you confuse them more, right? You put the wrong person in that seat of the therapist, it's going to cause more harm if you're feeding that than good, right? What happened to puberty, right? Kids go through everyone goes through it. So the minute that I would have kids in my office like that, and I talk about puberty, and I'm like, yeah, I remember being, a teenager, and everyone goes through that. Your body changes, you feel uncomfortable, and they're like, "Really? How do you know?" And I'm like, "Because I was a teenager. Everyone goes through it. You normalize. Everyone goes through it. It doesn't mean that you're in the wrong body. It just means that you're uncomfortable because your body's changing and you're not used to that." And so you want to walk hunchback if you're a girl because your body's changing, or you feel like this, and then all of a sudden, oh, and it doesn't mean you're the wrong gender. It just means that you're just feeling odd right now, and eventually it goes away. Oh, it does? Yeah, everyone goes through it. The minute I would normalize that and say everyone goes through it, they come back, they never talk about those, you know type of issues anymore. But you put the wrong person there, they're going to keep feeding that. Like, it's the same thing. Like, they tell us, okay, schizophrenia, we don't feed it, right? We don't continue to, I mean, those are hallucination. That's not reality. Why are we feeding the gender issue? It's not reality. It's not, it makes no sense. So when I say like my profession has been infiltrated, it's because there's a lot of people that are in that seat that shouldn't be there because they're now confusing kids and telling them things they shouldn't. Instead of just saying puberty, everyone goes through it.
very sad what we're doing to our children,
Hmm.
and we'll be held accountable for that. It's really sad. Okay, next one uh, is AB 727. It's a price hotline.
Yeah, so that one came through the education committee, and I voted no in committee. I voted no on the floor for it. It was to add the crisis hotline for LGBTQ on the back of school IDs, right? And when it was presented, my comments were that as a therapist, this is my field, and so as a therapist, when um, anyone calls that hotline, we're not asking. They're calling for a crisis. They don't care who's on the other line if you're helping them, and we don't care who you are or if you're LGBTQ. We're not, you know, we're just trying to get you to not, you know, take your life. So for me, I just said it makes no sense. As a therapist, we're not sitting there trying to. When I've helped kids, they weren't calling and saying, "Oh, I'm a LGBTQ. I'm in crisis." No, they're they're in crisis. This is how I'm feeling. We're talking about feelings and your actions. So yeah, I voted no. I thought that was unnecessary. But like I said, they have the votes all day, every day. Everything that they do is going to get by.
Which is very sad. Next one is SE 848.
Hmm.
Student safety law enacted to prevent child abuse and crack down on school employees' conduct across both public and K through 12 campuses.
Yeah, I voted in favor of that one. SB 848, expanded child abuse prevention procedures. Um, Senate Bill 848 is a sweeping student safety law enacted to prevent child abuse and crack down on school employee misconduct across both public and private K through 12 campuses. The law drastically expands the definition of a school mandated reporter to include contractors, board members, and parent volunteers who interact with students outside direct parental supervision. By July 1st, all affected schools must adopt strict written policies regarding adult student professional boundaries and provide annual mandatory child abuse prevention training to all staff and volunteers. Additionally, the legislation blocks schools from hiring anyone convicted of specific minor targeted felonies and initiates a statewide database to track complaints and investigations of egregious employee misconduct.
That one's pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
Okay, the next one is SB 59, the Transgender Privacy Act. So tell us about that one.
Yeah, so I voted no on this one. Again, parents should always be involved in what their kids are doing. I don't understand why they just keep lowering that age of consent and just thinking that it's okay. Like, kids can't, I mean, it makes no sense. So, this whole transgender thing, and I ran some bills last year, which was AB 600 and AB 579, um, parental opt-out rights and child abuse clarification. So I voted against this one because of that. The privacy, the parents. Parents have a right to know. Parents do have a right to know.
They do. I mean, you got pregnant, you carried the child, you're with this child. You need to know what's going on because you care for this child.
Yeah.
So it's just sad. Is there anything coming on in this new session, session you're going through just started, that we need to keep an eye on and we need to call on? Is there any bills that we need to be watching?
Well, I'll tell you this: all the bills that we're going to be voting on in the next couple weeks, pretty much when things are already out of the best time to try to stop a bill is when it's in the committee process. Um,
Okay.
pretty much once they pass through committees, they're going to pass on the floor for the most part.
Okay.
I think right now we're waiting for the bills that have gone to the Senate to come back to the Assembly. And then, like I said, we have about 500 or something bills that we got to pass in the next 2 weeks. So they have us on lockdown Monday through Sunday next week, all the way through. They said we might get finished, we might not. But if we do get finished and we don't have to go on the 31st, but we're supposed to be there until the 31st. So we'll see what
Wow.
happens. I can't really think right now what bills are coming through. But like I said, my bill died today in appropriations. It was to ban genetically modified pets for aesthetic reasons. Believe it or not, there is people paying big money to get glow in the dark bunnies.
Oh,
Stuff
I
that
saw
makes
that. Yeah.
absolutely no sense. And that was the bill. And it passed through the committees in the Assembly. We had some opposition last minute when it was in the Assembly. Um, they came in, it was PETA, I believe, but then
Mm.
they removed their opposition when we amended some language. They removed their opposition, so it had no opposition at that point. And then it had bipartisan support, bipartisan co-authors, and it passed through all the committees in the Assembly. It passed committees in the Senate, and then at the last minute, it was sent to appropriations by Judiciary Committee. And
Hmm.
my predecessor, who is my opponent's sister, is the chair of that committee. And when you talk about, is it political? Because it's not, it has nothing to do with, it's not going to cost anything. So it was more of a thing of them not wanting me to pass any legislation or whatnot,
Mhm.
because that's what they've been doing. I mean, I heard that from the very beginning that they were going to do everything to make sure I didn't pass anything, didn't do anything, so that they can say, "Oh, she's not effective." I'm like, okay, well, if your sole reason is to pass bills, like then you're already in the wrong. You know, um,
Right. Right.
things that absolutely help no one. I did get one bill passed. It did get signed by the governor, um, which was back in the day. I used to be a notary, and it was $10 per signature. Then what a notary does is a notary verifies that the person who is signing is the person on this ID that's signing the book and giving their fingerprint. That is what the notary does. So every verification of that, we can only charge at that time when I was $10, and it had
Hmm.
been that since 19 who knows what, and it increased up to $15 per signature in 2017, I believe, and it had been that since 2017. And they're small business owners. The
Hmm.
fees continue to go up for your CEUs because you have to get your CEUs for that. You have materials to purchase, and so my bill was to increase it to $20 per signature verification.
Okay.
And so it was passed, and the governor did sign it. And so now they're trying to say, oh, Castillo caused, taxpayers, or her constituents to pay more, and I'm like, $20, business owners, if you understand that
Right.
process. But what people will see is, oh yeah, in my home loan document, it shows the um, notary fee was like 1,500 or $3,000, but it has nothing to do with that. That is a certified loan signing agent, which I also was. But that's additional courses and additional stuff to be able to. Not every notary is a certified loan signing agent. You can't notarize loan documents unless you're a certified loan sign. And that fee is separate. That has nothing to do with, you can make your own fee when you're working with a real estate agent. This is your set fee to notarize loan documents. My
Thank you.
my increase was $5 only for the signature verification.
And $20 is not that much,
Right,
especially to get like a legal documents notarized,
right.
that type of stuff. So that's not that bad. So Do you take some questions from the audience?
Sure.
Do you feel comfortable? Cynthia, what questions do you see in chat? Let's see. Oh, what do you mean lockdown?
Oh no, crackdown. Sorry, for some reason my
Crackdown.
audio just went off.
Okay.
But there was a question about that, but somebody answered it, and then somebody asked if you voted yes or no for the Muslim holidays. She's asked to clarify
For the what? I'm sorry.
for the Muslim
Muslim holiday.
holidays.
Yeah, no, I didn't support that bill.
And
You
then
did not.
otherwise, yeah, she did not. And
Yes.
otherwise, it was just a lot of back and forth about other stuff. But if people have questions, raise your hand.
There's one in here about what do I mean of lockdown? Do you mean when I said they have us on lockdown? Meaning normally the legislator is not efficient, right? They waste time, they don't do anything. We can get all this stuff done in time where we can just, okay, let's vote on bills. Instead, they're like, they take their time on getting stuff done. So when I say lockdown, is lockdown we're finished. We're done on August 31st. That's it. So we have more than 500 bills to get passed before that date. So when I say lockdown, normally we're in session on Monday at 1 o'clock, in however many bills we'll have, maybe 20, 18 bills. Spend more time waiting for people to actually get there and turn their key on so we can get started and establish quorum, than we do voting on stuff. And then there's a lot of introductions, a lot of, other stuff that goes on. So when I say lockdown, instead of being there Monday for session, then we have Tuesday, Wednesday, we have session on Thursday at 9 a.m. and we vote, and then we come back home. So I fly up on Mondays and I fly back on Thursdays. And when it's during this time, when all the bills last year they call it House of Origin, which is when we're on lockdown until all those bills are done. We're in session every single day, even Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they have us on lockdown where we cannot book flights or do anything or leave during that time frame because we have to be in session.
So how many, I have heard we vote in an insane amount of bills a year.
Mm-hmm.
Are we the only state that, 500 bills? Are we the only state that does that craziness?
Oh, 500 isn't a lot compared to what we had. That's what's left.
So what
I'm
is
trying to find a calculator.
God, it was like over 1,000.
So think about it. I'm going to tell you right now what let me pull up my calculator. So there's 80 members, 4,000 bills each year.
That's insane.
That's just the assembly. So then in the Senate, $1,400. And I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong number because I did the 50 instead of the 35 because it's only 35 now. 2,800. So 2,800.
Insane.
Uh-huh.
That's insane. And you're in session. Okay, so for the month of August in session, when do you go back after August? Do you have a break September and then you go back in October? Or?
Yeah, so we already had, so we're off for a week in April for spring break. Then we go back, and then we have a month off. That was in July. So July was our summer recess, our summer break. And then after that month off, we go back for a month, and then we're off. because then everyone is out there until the November, what happens in
Got
November.
election.
And
Okay.
then, yeah. And so we're off until January is when we go back, except we do go back in December to get sworn in. That's when we have,
Okay.
yeah. So we go in
Okay. And that
December
way
to
you're
get,
ready to go in January. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I've read we're the only state that has so many bills to pass. I mean, just
It's a lot. It's a
it's a
lot.
waste of time. It really is.
And
Cynthia, do you have a
I
question?
said, I only ran 12 bills last year and 5 this year. And the majority of my colleagues, they all max theirs out.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Cynthia, you see the person that has a question? Rochelle? Rochelle, why don't you go ahead and unmute yourself and ask our
Thank you.
Assemblywoman a question?
I have a question for the Assemblywoman. First, I want to say thank you for your courage. Thank you for your stand. I know it's difficult. I show up to these hearings and the madness is unbelievable. But what can citizens do to curtail, number one, either the number of bills? Is there something as citizens can do, or reduce the amount of time that the legislature is in session? I know in other states, some states only meet for a few months. Some states, of course, meet every other year. Is there anything we as citizens can do to curtail all of these bills, because people are busy, they can't follow? And I'm glad it's down now to 2,000, because you're right, it was way more than that, 3,000 and 4,000 bills. Nobody can follow that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What can we do?
When we can try to get other people in there until we break that supermajority that they have, and the supermajority means that they have control of everything. There's 60 of them and 19 of us. And until we break that, where we make them come to the table, there's not much we can do. The thing is that we have to continue to try to get people into these seats. And just like I did, you have to have no fear and go out there and talk to people and let them know what's going on. And the majority of people don't know. I mean, I get there's groups like this that, yeah, we are involved, we are engaged, but a lot of people just really don't know what's going on. They're too busy trying to make ends meet, get their kid, it's, yeah. So I would say if you have someone local that, help them get into the seat. Um,
I
help them.
ran for office.
Yeah,
I ran
yeah,
against Lori Wilson, and Carl DeMaio really kind of sunk me. But I do understand the process, and I understand about the supermajority. So we just keep going. You're absolutely right. We've got to be able to break that, but it's going to take the people
yeah.
to get engaged and involved.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, one thing that Tisha did when she went for office, she went door to door, and she talked to the people in her district and educated them. Helped them realize her values were the same as theirs, and it's really key to talk to your friends and neighbors and say, do you like paying over $5 a gallon of gas? Do you like that you're paying an exorbitant amount to register your car? How do you feel about, so many of your friends are moving out of state? How do you feel about this, the bill that's coming up on our November ballot to tax the rich? We have been so complacent in our country, and we've taken for granted what our founding fathers have set up for us as a republic. And we've forgotten it's we the people. We really have forgotten that. And it's critical that we get people out to vote and vote conservatives in.
Yeah. So I'm looking at Sharon's comment in the chat where she said, we used to have a part-time legislator. They realized they could make more money by being full-time.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you about that. And when I ran for office, I honestly didn't know. Like, I kind of figured they would pay us for our expenses, to be like a per diem. We do get a per diem, and that's what I thought we would get, right? And I always thought, well, I'm a therapist, that I'll just continue to do that. But even that is hard to do. So we get a daily per diem.
She's frozen on my screen too.
But then I realized that we also get a monthly a salary. I didn't know that part of it.
Hmm.
And when we get $236, I think it is, per day. And so each day that you're there, yeah, you're getting paid for each day that you're there. When you're not in session, you don't get paid for that. And I think, going back to your comment, yeah, I believe that that's why they do it the way they do it, because they want that money.
My phone's hot.
And a lot of them buy houses up there. And about 4 months in, Assembly Rules came to my office. They were going to all the members' offices, and they were asking questions like if we felt that the per diem was enough. And they said, because a lot of members are saying that it's not enough. And I looked at them and I'm like, what do you mean? It's more than enough. And plus we get our monthly pay. I'm like, that's more than enough. How could they say that it's not? And I know they were just probably like, oh, this isn't the right person to ask. But the thing is that because they buy houses up there and the per diem pays for that, and then when we're off for those 4 months, then what happens? And that's why they're saying it's not enough. So they're actually trying to increase the amount, of the per diem, because they don't know how to manage their money.
Very sad. Does anybody else have any questions? Now's the chance. What we got in the chat? Last time I checked, this is from Sharon.
We've got Arnie with his hand up.
Okay, go ahead and take that one, Cynthia.
Okay. Good. Mine, right? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your time, Assembly Member. I appreciate it. Question that I have, and I'm a little confused about the in the Republican Party. I own rental properties, and I'm very involved in rental housing trade associations. And many of the renters in your area, I think almost 12% of your registered voters live in multi-unit rental properties, and I think another 33 live in the single-family rented properties. And excuse me, I'm sorry. The renters really, in my opinion, are being exploited by the Democrats and even groomed, being promised things that just can't be delivered. And I have gone to many of the Republicans, including the leadership in the Republican Party, and none of them are interested in understanding the narratives that'll help them very simply go after the renters' votes. Even Carl DeMaio, I won't give money to these people that squander that. It's a huge opportunity. In the city of Los Angeles, 33% of the registered voters live in multi-unit rental properties. And there's a way to do it that you get the owners on board, but there's like no interest from the Republican Party. Do you know why? And would you be interested?
I can tell you there's the messaging, as far as, how things are. There's, I just got elected. I'm new. And, sometimes you see things and you try to, oh, okay, well, this is why things have been like this. Okay, so you start to pay attention and you start to learn how things and why things have been a certain way. And so that's kind of where I'm at, trying to understand that piece of it. So, yeah, I do get what you're saying. And we do need to get there, um, on that. So, and yeah, I would be interested in that.
Okay. I'll put my contact info, and if anybody else is interested in your area and whether you've got people running for office. It's not complicated, but there's like no attempt to even try. And so, but I'll put my contact info if anybody else too is interested. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Arnie. Yeah, Cynthia, can you grab his contact information once he puts that in?
Will do.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? And I apologize, we've had some technical difficulties tonight, and I'm not sure why, but anyway, if we have no more questions, I want to remind you guys that on Thursday, September 17th, we will be going over the November 3rd ballot. Susan Shelley will be our guest speaker, and she'll go over each one. This is a critical election. We have got to get conservatives in our legislation, in our local offices, your school board, your water board. We've got to get conservatives in. We can change the state, but you've got to get people involved. We've been sitting on our butts too long, and we really have got to get involved. Get your family involved, get your friends involved, your neighbors. We can change the state. If we don't, it's just going to get worse, and it's really sad. This is a beautiful state, and it's just a shame to see if it goes down even further. So, Leticia, do you have anything else you want to add?
I think that's pretty much it.
Great.
Just keep me in prayer. Always keep me in prayer.
Yes, hedge of protection up there. That is for sure, and from flying up and down the state too. So thank you so much, Leticia, for coming on and sharing about the bills and what goes on. Yes, we will definitely be praying for you with that craziness up there. So again, our next show will be Thursday, September 17th. TownHall Central was brought to you with the support of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. And again, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. And
thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much, Leticia. And again, vote. Get out the vote. Get people out to vote in November. This is our chance to save our state. So I wish everyone a good night, and we'll see you on September 17th. Thank you very much.